What is up, everybody? It's Raymond Inscart here with another episode of the Brew Sportscast. Hey. All right, on tonight's episode, we're going to preview the Jags versus the Commanders game and our 5-game pick'em that we talked about earlier in the podcast when it first started. That kicks off this week, so we'll do that. And then we'll end tonight's episode with a little bit of fantasy football stuff, since that kicks off on Thursday.
Yep.
So let's get started with the Jackson Washington preview. What are you ready for?
Oh, I'm ready. First of all, just for the first game of the season for us to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody's always hating on the Jackson. I'm not saying we're going to be like a Super Bowl team this year, but I think we're definitely 360 from last year.
Yeah.
Our defensive line, I hope they're on Carson Wentz all day.
We play him pretty well, so I don't think that'll be a problem. Washington, they're favored by 3, and I really believe that's only because they're a home game. It's a home game for them, or else the line would be pretty even.
They have some weapons, but Chase Young's still out, right?
Yeah, he's still out.
Yeah, and offensively, Carson Wentz is a good quarterback, but he's not like some superstar. And their weapons, their offensive weapons, are not superstar people.
Right.
They're the same. They're just as good as
probably
our players.
Our level, the Jags level.
Right.
Yeah.
Antonio Gibson is a great running back, and he's more proven. But I think Etienne and having Robinson back are just as good. Their receivers, the only one that is really a standout is Terry McLaurin. And I wouldn't say he's better than Christian Kirk or
I think
Marvin Jones.
Cover him.
Yeah. So I think it'll be a great game, and I hope it's like a good kickstart for the season to get the boys pumped up.
Somebody on Twitter, they tweeted what's your prediction for the game this week, and I replied with I don't see it being a high scoring game with the Jags offense being questionable in the red zone, and it's Carson Wentz for the Commanders. Mm-hmm. I really believe it's going to be low scoring, like a 17-13 Jags victory.
I could see it being a defensive
victory. A couple
victory.
Field goals.
Yeah. I could see it basically coming down to which defense outperforms the other. A low scoring game. I can see that. I'm hoping it's on the Jags end is not a low scoring game because I want to see a fire offense.
Of course.
I want to see Trevor Lawrence airing it out, and all them receivers that he has with Zay Jones deep, and then Christian Kirk and Marvin Jones. I would like to see a high scoring.
Of course, I would too.
But yes, realistically, I will agree with you that I think it's going to be a low scoring game, and it's going to come down to the defense.
Yeah, I'm excited though.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait. We're actually cooking out over here at the Brew studio.
Well, we aren't cooking.
We aren't cooking out. I'm bringing some.
We're all bringing food, but we aren't the ones
I'm
cooking.
going to bring some homemade mac and cheese.
Some homemade mac and cheese, yeah.
And then, our buddy is bringing some brisket. But
I can't wait to try that. The ribs we had today were delicious. I can't wait to try the brisket.
Yeah.
But, anything else for the preview?
No.
No?
I think it'll be the first game in a while over here that we'll watch where we won't have Mitty tearing off his shirt or something in rage.
Yeah. And the first one, Adam won't be here.
Yeah, true.
So that's going to be different.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, his brother Adam moved to Texas and is now a Texans fan.
Yeah, he's now a Texans fan.
But
and traitor.
Other than that, let's move on to the pick'ems.
All right, on to the 5-game pick'em. You want to explain that?
Yeah, so we said at the beginning, I don't know, one of our very first episodes, we talked about how we're going to do a 5-game pick'em each week. And basically, we made a little friendly wager with each other to compete, and we'll keep track of it and post it for y'all as we go throughout the season. Basically, we're going to pick 5 games each week and pick who the winners are. Each of us pick who we think is going to win each game and sort of compete in that way, trying to see who has better.
Me, of course.
So the way we're going to do it, we actually didn't plan this before the season started, but just preparing for this episode, we were talking about it, and we decided to do it this way, and we actually like this for the rest of the season. So for the 5 games, we're always, since this is an NFL podcast, but also heavily leaned on the Jags. We're always going to pick the Jags game to be one of the games that we pick, and then the other four will be split between us. So each of us will pick basically two random games that we think will just be good games that week, or good for the pick 'em. So this week we have Jacksonville at Washington, then we have the Buffalo at Rams game, Cleveland at Carolina, New England at Miami, and then finishing off with Tampa Bay at Dallas. So we're just going to go through these each game and each say basically who we would pick. So starting off with Jax at Washington.
Who do you have?
So for that one, I have Jacksonville.
Of course, I have Jacksonville as well.
Okay. Yep. Buffalo at the Rams.
I thought about this game for a little bit, but I really like Buffalo.
So I did too, because Buffalo is who I'm picking to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
As of right now, and I almost went Rams just because I'm like, you know what? Just because I think Buffalo's going to win the Super Bowl and do really good, I could see them just having a slow start out the gate, and Rams is,
You don't think they'll have a Super Bowl hangover?
I don't know. I think they're pumped up and ready to go and trying to repeat.
We'll see.
But we both picked Buffalo.
Yep.
I picked Buffalo. Cleveland at Carolina.
I have Carolina.
I have Carolina.
They're
Baker Mayfield. I think he's got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah. I don't think Brissett's going to do any damage to Carolina. They have a decent defense, so we'll see.
New England at Miami. I have New England.
I have New England as well, which we both could be wrong there.
A lot of people are picking Miami, but I don't know. First game of the season, I just feel more confident with New England. And then finally, Tampa Bay at Dallas. This is gonna probably be I'm picking an upset here. Most people aren't probably gonna agree with me, but I'm telling you, I'm right. I have Dallas.
You have Dallas.
Yep.
I'm going with Tampa Bay.
I just think Dallas's defense, man, is top of the line in fantasy. I know fantasy is not reality, but in fantasy, they're the number one ranked defense right now. Also, this is the third time ever Dak Prescott playing against Tom Brady, and Tom Brady has beat him both times before. So Dak has talked about how he's excited for this game, and they played the exact same game to open up the season last year, and Tampa beat Dallas by 2 points. So I'm going for the revenge factor, and I think Dallas is going to come back and upset them.
All right. Well, I got Tampa Bay, and it looks like that game is the only difference for this week.
Yeah. So we'll see. One game difference this week.
We will see.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we finished the pick 'em. Let's go on to fantasy.
All right. So normally the fantasy from here on, because it's, we're doing our trust, bust, and thrust, and we're picking 3 players for every position. Each of us, not every position, but quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Since it's so in depth, and as the season goes, we would have more actual football to talk about. So we've decided that we would normally make the fantasy part. It's going to be a 2-part video, and the fantasy is going to be its own video afterwards. But tonight, since we don't have as much to cover, we're just recording the fantasy in one video. But probably from now on, what we'll do is the NFL stuff, like normal NFL stuff first, and then we'll cut the video, and in a separate video we can do fantasy stuff. And what that also does is people who aren't even into fantasy at all, like I have a coworker that watches that doesn't care about fantasy, they can just watch the first video and you don't have to worry about watching the fantasy part.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. So basically, like I said, trust, bust, thrust. So for each position, we have 3 things we're going to go over. We're going to do trust, which is a starting player that you trust and will continue to trust this week that you think should stay starting. Bust is somebody that's either would normally start and you shouldn't start this week. It could even be like an injury, or just somebody with a bad matchup, or somebody that is borderline starter that you're just like, no, do not play them. It doesn't necessarily have to be an every week starter.
Right.
And then thrust is going to be somebody sort of like a sleeper. It's going to be somebody who you may not would like, maybe a fringe starter, or you wouldn't normally start, that you should thrust into action. All right. So for quarterbacks, my trust is Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Playing the Jets, weak team. I think Lamar's gonna be, I would say, top 3 in fantasy points for quarterbacks this week.
This week?
Yeah.
Okay.
My bust, I actually have Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
And
Yeah.
that goes along with my pick of picking Dallas to upset. Um, I think that Tom Brady is not going to do as well as they have him projected this week. Um, Also, with all of his personal stuff going on, not being at training camp and stuff,
Yeah.
I think he's not going to start off the season as hot as he will be throughout the season.
Yeah.
Um,
I can see that.
and then my thrust, which is actually borderline, because in some deeper leagues he will be an every week starter, but my thrust this week is Derek Carr.
Okay.
Derek Carr.
Who are they playing?
They're playing the Chargers.
Oh.
I think it's going to be a high scoring battle.
Okay.
And with added Devontae Adams, Darren Waller is healthy, Hunter Renfro. I think that Derek Carr is going to be the quarterback you should thrust into action this week.
Okay. My turn.
Yep.
All right. So my trust at quarterback is the one and only. Well, I can't say the one and only, but the Josh Allen for Buffalo.
Don't ever say the one and only.
He's not the one and only Josh Allen, but they're playing the Rams. I really like Josh Allen still starting him. He's capable of putting up a lot of points.
Yeah.
So, but my bust, you'll be shocked,
Yeah.
is Aaron Rodgers. Why? Because he lost one or two, maybe he lost 3 receivers, but I mean it's his first real live action game with his new guys, and they're playing a decent team in Minnesota, so I don't feel confident in starting him.
A lot of people this is one of the games I told my friend betting on Vegas this week, and my dad too. A lot of people I think are way too confident in Green Bay in this first week.
Yeah.
I have them picked to go far and win their division.
Right.
But for this first week, I could see this being the upset of the week as well. I could see Minnesota doing it.
Yeah. That's why Aaron Rodgers is my bust at quarterback. My thrust is Jameis Winston.
I like that.
Jameis, I've had him in a couple leagues the last couple of years, and he's come through for me at times. But Jameis, he'll put up a lot of points, and they're playing Atlanta.
Yeah.
And we talked about Atlanta a couple weeks ago, and they're not very impressive. So I feel like Jameis, if you can't decide on your quarterback or whatever, just throw him in there as the thrust, and he'll put you up maybe a solid 15, maybe 23 points, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, running backs. So my trust this week, of course, Jonathan Taylor at Houston.
Yeah.
The dude's a stud. If he didn't go number 1 in any league, I would be really shocked for fantasy. Except I already said earlier, we know I would have probably gone Cooper Kupp if Max didn't have him as a keeper. I went Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
But yeah, besides my probably bias, Jonathan Taylor should go number 1 in every league. My bust this week is Antonio Gibson. Jags defensive line is looking freaking stout, and I think they're going to shut him down this week. Not saying he's not going to get decent fantasy points, but he's not going to put up numbers close to what he was putting up last year.
Okay.
And then my thrust, Travis Etienne. Dude has been looking hot and well, that's gay. He's been hot in preseason, not looking hot.
Yeah.
And I mean, even adding James Robinson back, that just makes him even better, because that means that he's not being the only one relied on, so he can get more, I guess, basically more rest time and be able to be out there for the pass plays and just be utilized, I guess, more wisely.
Right.
And so that is my thrust this week.
All right. That's your 3.
And Chase Young's not there.
Your thrust was who? Oh, yeah.
ETN.
Yeah. All right. So at running back, my trust is, of course, Jonathan Taylor.
Yep.
It's Houston. It's Jonathan Taylor. He's going to have a big game. So can't really say much more about that. That's my trust, who I'll always start this week. And my bust is Ezekiel Elliott.
Dang.
Yep. They're playing Tampa Bay, who has a solid, they have a solid defense, and Zeke just had a bad year last year. And I could be wrong. I'm going based off of last year. So, and it's a home game for Dallas, but I myself wouldn't start Zeke this week against Tampa Bay.
Okay.
My thrust is Travis Etienne Jr.
Nice.
You know, he performed well in the preseason, and we're playing Washington.
Junior. I like how you threw the junior in to make you
That's
look smarter than me.
No, but Travis Etienne is my thrust. You know, a solid flex player. For some of you guys, he could be a starter depending on how deep your league is, 10, 12 people. But Travis Etienne Jr. will throw. He will get you a good amount of points this week against Washington.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to receivers. My trust, of course, is my boy Cooper Kupp. They're playing Buffalo. I think it's going to be a shootout, and I don't know why I would ever sit Cooper Kupp. It doesn't matter what defense they're playing. My bust is Tyler Lockett. Solid starter last year, could still be a solid starter this year, depending on the quarterback. And I think that the trust in Geno Smith is just not there yet. I have DK Metcalf in a lot of my leagues, and I'm not hating on anybody who has Tyler Lockett in their leagues. They could get to where they were last year, but I need to see a couple games first. I need to see that they are having that connection with Geno Smith before I put them as a trusted starting receiver. And then my thrust is actually going against who your bust for quarterback is. My thrust is Alan Lazard.
Okay.
He's going to be Rodgers' number one receiver. Look at the points that I'm not saying he's anywhere near elite like Devontae Adams, but look at Devontae Adams' points when he's under Aaron Rodgers. So I think Lazard is definitely to be thrust into action this week.
Okay. So at wide receiver for me, for my trust, I have, of course, Cooper Kupp. Who doesn't? You know, he's going to play every week in a starting lineup. You know, a solid maybe 20 to 30 points a week, it seems like.
Yeah.
But that's my trust. My bust is DJ Moore. Okay. They're playing Cleveland, you know, who has a solid defense. And, I mean, I feel like that game could be low scoring. But
see, I think when I was looking at that, I was like, Baker Mayfield has that chip on his shoulder. Is DJ Moore's going to be his top target probably? But I can see from your side where, okay, but do we have the trust in their connection yet? We have to see something first before he's trusted as a starter.
Right. Right.
Like if that's your only option, fine. But yeah, I can see why you would list him as a bust.
Yep. So DJ Moore is my bust at the wide receiver position. My thrust is a rookie who plays for New Orleans, Chris Olave. He's from Ohio State, you know, and playing with Jameis Winston. I feel like them two will have a good connection. So if you don't have anybody to throw in at flex position, you know, I would throw Chris Olave in. You know, I feel like he'll get you some solid points this week. They're playing Atlanta. So, I mean, he's a solid thrust into action guy if you can't come up with any other ideas.
All right. So finally, tight end. So my trust for tight end is Mark Andrews. Once again, they're playing the Jets. Him and Lamar Jackson already have that connection. Fantasy points wise, he was the number one tight end last year, even though everybody, for some reason, still drafts and thinks like Kelsey's the number one tight end. Yeah, against the Jets, definitely Mark Andrews is my trust. My bust is Hunter Henry for New England.
Against Miami.
Yep. Not even though I picked New England to win, fantasy wise, yes, he's New England's clear starter, but that offense, as far as passing and stuff goes, like Matt Jones has proven that he's a good quarterback in passing, but fantasy wise, I don't think he's going to put up the numbers to basically to start him, unless you're like in a really deep like PPR league, like a 12-man roster or something maybe. But and then my thrust is Zach Ertz.
Okay.
He's the clear starter for Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. They're playing Kansas City, who actually is 17th in pass defense against tight ends.
Okay.
And I think it is just I wouldn't say it's a step up from last year, because now if he was with Jalen Hurts this year and improved Jalen Hurts and was the only clear tight end, then he would be fine.
Right.
But from last year when him splitting work and they were fighting, figure out the quarterback situation, being with a solid Kyler Murray is a great quarterback, proven fantasy quarterback. So, and being the clear starter at tight end, going to be a lot of targets. Their receivers are questionable. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is out. You don't know yet if Marquise Brown is going to do better than last year,
Right.
even though him and Kyler Murray played college football together and they should have that connection. You just have to see it first. And then, I mean, AJ Green, like, dude's old.
He's old,
Yeah.
but he's still got talent.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Yeah. So Ertz is my thrust.
All right. At tight end, I have, for my trust, I have Mark Andrews. Like you said, it's the Jets. I mean, I think I heard on ESPN the other day that they give up a lot of points to tight ends. The Jets defense is really bad at covering the tight end, so he's my trust. He's gonna put up some solid points this week, at least. Yeah. My bust is C.J. Hawkinson. They're playing Philly and Detroit. I'm kind of hyped to see what Detroit can do this year. From what I've seen, a little bit of Hard Knocks or whatever, and just little clips of their team.
Yeah.
But I just don't see Hawkinson doing well this week against Philly. So my thrust, I don't know why I put him because they're playing one of the best defenses in the league.
Mhm.
But my thrust is Tyler Higbee.
Yeah.
If you can't come up with anybody to decide at the tight end position, I'd throw him in there. He's gonna get you a solid 10 plus points. I wouldn't say high amount of points, but
Yeah.
he was a big target for Matthew Stafford last year. So that's my thrust for the week at tight end.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yep.
So now that you've seen that, that's what we're going to do every week for the fantasy. If there's other news, like big fantasy news, we'll probably throw it in as well. But as you can see, that takes up quite a bit of time, and it gives you a lot of options to look at for players for each position.
Yep. So starting next week, we'll have the two parts. For you guys that don't like listening to the fantasy, you have the football talk, and for you guys that don't care to listen to us, they have the fantasy talk. But that'll start next week. So,
yeah, and like always, if you have any suggestions or anything, you can call into the studio manager, Caitlin Renault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys, if you guys don't agree with any of the trust, bust, and thrust players at any position, wide receiver, quarterback, tight end, running
definitely.
back,
Make your comments. Let us know.
Comment on YouTube.
Yeah.
Do something like that. But that's it. That's all we have for tonight's episode. I'm Raymond.
And I'm Scar. This is the Brew Sportscast.
Until next time.
Keep it brewing.